This is about episode 135. We're certainly in that 130 range. As with most of our episodes, we've been talking with individuals who have battled addiction, come out on the side of recovery. Today's guest is a little different in that respect. She lost a brother to addiction. She's going to tell us the story from the sister side. We're looking forward to hearing from her.
Jesus didn't have a problem with people that's in the streets. He had a problem with religious people.
How can I help anybody when I was not even able to help my own son?
I would never do that. And I became that in a matter of minutes when they took my pain pills away.
And I said, I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be.
This is Faith in Your Recovery. I am Randy Davis. Welcome to the battle. We're glad you're back with us this week. We look forward to sharing this episode with you. Our guest today comes from over in Delaware County, Kara Ross. Welcome, Kara.
Hi.
Wonderful to have you here on Faith in Your Recovery. We met, how long ago was it that your brother passed and you guys came into the office?
So he passed last May. So it would have been maybe like June when I met you for the first time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So It's coming up on a year here before long, right?
Yes, it is.
You were in there with another sibling, yes?
Yes.
And your mom and dad.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll get into a little more of that later, but we're just glad you're with us. I know then it was too tender of a time to tell the story. Indeed, it requires some healing and some help for you.
Yeah.
What makes you think today is the day? Why? Why now, Kara?
So in the beginning, everything was just super fresh, so I didn't really want to talk about it at the time. Now that I've had time to grieve about it and kind of understand and let it sit in, I was like, you know what? I just want to educate people, just talk about it.
Thanks for using that word educate, okay, because we all need that.
Yep.
There's many, and I'm thankful for that, who have never been in the position that you were in, and sadly enough, there are too many who have been in that position. Mm-hmm. Your brother, his name was?
Michael Ross.
Michael Ross. How old was Michael when he passed?
29.
Okay, so he's your oldest brother?
Yes, he was.
Okay. So what was he like? Tell us a little about him in his healthier days before the addiction set in.
It's kind of hard to explain just because from the age of 9 to 10 is kind of when he started his addiction, so it's kind of hard for me to remember before that.
Well, of course, yeah, and he hadn't developed much anyway for you to be able to say he was this kind of guy or that kind.
But all I can say, he was a very funny person, sweet. He would do anything to help others. I don't know, he was just super loving and caring.
Okay, all right, that fits. You say he was in that 9 or 10 range when he started. What got him started? Do you know?
So when I was 9 or 10, that's about when he started using. So he was in high school at the time.
Aha, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He got popular all of a sudden in high school, and we never really knew why until he hit about 20 is when we found out that he kind of started having an addiction problem. All through high school, we had no clue that he had this issue until he got a little bit older.
And then as you looked back, you could see evidence of the issue, yes, but you didn't know what had brought him to that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. What were his drugs of choice?
His drugs of choice was pretty much everything. Meth, heroin, cocaine, pretty much anything you can think of he used.
If it was out there, he was going to find it, it sounds
yeah.
like. Story of so many. Anything I say here today is not pointing a finger at him. We're here to help you educate people, and we don't want others, and I'm sure you don't want others to go through the same hurts you guys had to go through.
I don't.
Yeah. What was it like? How much were you around him in that 20 to 29 age range?
I was around him a lot. Although he did work a lot, so it was kind of hard to see him sometimes. But
Sure.
I would say he had been a year sober at the time in his 29 or the 20 to 29 year range. Sorry, I'm getting...
No, that's okay.
Let me think here.
Well, during that time, it sounds like he was trying to fight his way out of it anyhow, to have had that sober time.
Yeah.
How long was that for?
I would say the most he had been sober for was 2 years at a time. And every time he would go back to Grace Recovery. He spent a lot of time there. But he had a hard time staying sober just because mental health problems, just a lot of issues that he dealt with that made it hard for him to stay sober.
What was that like for you as little sister? And speak to the best of your abilities, your mom and dad and other sibling.
His addiction was very, very hard on us, especially me, just because me and him were very close despite the age difference. I remember growing up and me waking up one morning all of a sudden and finding him, and that was multiple times that I found him growing up. So, when he passed, it wasn't shocking to me because I knew it was going to happen someday because he could not stay sober. And I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case, but it did, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it was final at that time, but not shocking because of your earlier experiences, finding him overdosed or...
multiple times I found him, and he overdosed probably about 12 times, which is kind of shocking. Because most people, they don't survive after 12, 13 overdoses.
No, the odds are against that.
Yeah. So I definitely think he had an angel watching out for him. But yeah, it was just very difficult.
What were some of your feelings toward him at that time? You're waking up a morning here and another morning in 4, 6, 8, 10 months again.
Yeah.
What were your feelings toward him? I know your love didn't change, but some things had to change in you.
I loved him, but over time, I started getting angry because I thought that he had changed, and then he would relapse, and it's sad to say, but when he was using, that's when he would feel more like the most comfortable around us. Like when he was sober, he wouldn't talk to us. And he would act like he didn't know us, It was very difficult, but when he was using, he felt more like my brother because that's what I was used to all my life.
Yeah. And if he's sober, he might have to deal with a straight-in-his-face question that you guys ask him that he doesn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
So he could avoid those moments simply by not being sober.
Yeah, there was definitely an issue with my dad and my other older brother. They didn't really get the addiction part. It was more me and my mom that were more understanding about it. We kind of knew more about addiction than my dad and brother did, I would say.
How old your other brother?
He's 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So somewhat in the middle of the two of you, yes? Yeah.
But I would say the one that is 23, they would have fights often because my brother, he would steal, the typical things that, happen with an addiction. And it was hard for my brother that was, the 23-year-old one to trust him.
Was he straight at all times as far as not to your knowledge, messing with drugs or being addicted? Or did he have his own struggles?
I'm not sure. Just
Okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you can't answer, we're good with that. I'd
Okay.
rather address it. If you don't want to answer or can't, understood. All right?
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to handle it that way. From your point of view, with the knowledge of addiction that you had, your love for your brother, and at times your anger, which was justified, what was it that you tried the hardest to get through to him? What was it you most often said, or how did you handle him during those times of heavy addiction?
I would say something that I said the most was those drugs don't love you, your family does. It took me a while to understand why. I don't know, in my perspective when I was younger, I was like, I don't understand why you're choosing these drugs over your family. You know, if you love us so much, why are you doing it? Until I got a little bit older. Then I kind of understood.
Did he ever have an answer for you?
He would get upset and kind of stay away from me when I would
Okay.
be truthful to him
Okay.
or...
Well, you'd touch a spot and he'd get angry and
Yeah.
just avoid and shut down then, probably.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, the story you're telling, and don't misunderstand me. I don't mean any less of your brother, but the story you're telling me is pretty typical.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of folks go through, and who knows, maybe Dave will give somebody an answer they won't have to go through it.
Yeah.
That's our goal here. What do you have to say to other little sisters out there who may have an older brother, older sister, even a parent who's dealing with addiction, be it drugs or alcohol? What, from your experience, give them a sentence or two of advice.
I would just say don't give up on them. I know that, they may not be them, but anything like their actions or whatever they may be doing, it's not them. I try to say that it's the drugs. It's not them as a person. Because I think a lot of us, I think we try to, I'm trying to find the way to put it.
The drugs take over.
Yeah, they do.
The drugs take control. And you and I, so many times, identify that individual dealing with addiction by the way they deal with their addiction.
Yeah.
Instead of looking beyond the addiction and remembering who they are. And just
Yeah.
as you said, that's the drugs acting out. It's not
Yeah.
who they are when they're sober, but when they're with that, going through that affair with that drug, whatever it may be, they're going to be somebody different.
Yeah, somebody that you definitely don't like. Or I know for a long time, I was like, my brother, he keeps hurting me. And actually right before he had passed, I told myself, because he had been sober for about 2 years then, and I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, I can't believe he was doing so good. I was like, I can't believe that, he would disappoint me like that. After, we've came so far, he had started building a relationship back with us as a family. And even people like that are in my family, but not, just like my mom, dad, brother, they started to trust him again, and he started coming around.
That says a lot, and it makes you very vulnerable, as you
Yeah.
found out.
And I had so much hope for him, and I was like, you know what? He finally did it. And then a little bit right before, about 2 weeks up until before he passed, he had relapsed.
Okay. a few moments ago, you were saying he hurt you
Yeah.
a lot. That was through disappointments, yes?
Yeah.
And through promises not fulfilled, lack of trust.
Yeah.
Seeing him there on the floor another time. I don't
Yeah.
want folks to get that confused with any kind of personal abuse toward you.
Yeah,
So
I was
that's one.
just, it just hurts when you're getting let down let down over and over again. Because I would believe in him and then he would let me down, or my mom would be crying all the time. And it hurts to see your mom cry all
You
the time.
bet.
It does. And I definitely feel like his addiction kind of tore our family apart over time. But, right before he had passed, like, we had, built that relationship back together. We all did. But then, unfortunately he did pass, so.
Okay, I want to
Yeah.
go back to that, and feel free to correct me if I
Okay.
don't have things in order. But I think you said it was about 2 weeks before he overdosed and died
Yep.
that he had overdosed. Is that right? Like he overdosed, he was taken care of, got back on his feet, 2 weeks later overdosed, and that was the final one?
So he had been sober for about almost 2 years. I just say 2 years because it was about that mark.
Sure, that's close enough.
But he didn't overdose 2 weeks before he had passed. He had just relapsed and started using again.
Relapse. Got
Yes.
you. That's the word you used. My bad.
No, you're
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Yeah. The danger with so many, I don't know if you know, but I just want to make sure all of our folks know that when we stop using, our tolerance level goes down just like a thermometer changing, and the change of seasons.
Yeah.
And when that tolerance goes down, we oftentimes want to use the amount of the drug that we were using before, and it takes us out so quickly, so many times.
And it does, because that was my worry, because that's the longest he had been sober for. And I was thinking to myself, Mom, like, he told me not to tell you, but he's using again.
This
I
is
said,
during those final 2 weeks,
Yes.
yeah? How did you feel about betraying? And I use that word only because of what you just said.
Yeah.
I think, I want to hear what you thought about yourself. What was it like to have to narc on your brother, rat him out?
I hated doing it. Just like even when he lived at home with us and he would steal stuff and my parents would be like, you can't keep doing this if you're going to use in my house. It was a hard decision for my parents to kick him out, but he was a grown adult and my parents would let him come stay at home and he was using around us and it just wasn't good. And of course, at the time I was a minor, my mom's like, you can't be using that around my other kids. And I would beg my mom or beg my dad to be like, please let him come home. I'm worried about him. Like, I cared about him a lot. I kept stuff from my parents about stuff that he was doing, just because I didn't want to make him seem like he was doing worse than what he actually was.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a difficult line it is to draw between truly helping and enabling.
Yeah, it is.
And if we knew where that line was, we wouldn't even be asking the question, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Bringing him home may have been the best thing that could have been done. Another night on the street may have been the best thing.
Yeah.
We don't usually know until in hindsight, which obviously then it's too late.
Because what started it all, because of course he worked at Grace Recovery and Wellness here in Anderson, which he was once a client there. He ended up not really wanting to work there, and he got a job at Bob Memorial Hospital as a patient, or not a patient, but a recovery, I'm trying to think of the word.
Specialist?
Yeah, recovery specialist.
Okay.
to help other people.
Peer
with,
recovery coach.
Peer recovery coach. That's
All
what
right,
it is.
good.
And he had got a job he lasted maybe about a week, and I think it overwhelmed him because he had got kicked out of his house, came back to live at home, and with us being busy and working and everything, nobody was really home, so it was just him, and he ended up quitting his job at Ball. And that's where everything went downhill, and drama with a girlfriend, and yeah.
All the excuses, and sometimes all it takes is one. It doesn't even have to be true.
Yep.
But he was buying into that hurt and all, and he only knew one way to deal with it at that point in his life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How much have you put on yourself? How much have you blamed yourself that you weren't able to make the difference you wanted to make?
I blame myself a lot. Just because, especially right in the 2 weeks mark before he passed, he was going through some drama with a girlfriend that he was with for about 3 years. And of course, anything, an addiction can set you off,
Trigger it,
and make you relapse. It's that quick. It doesn't matter if it's small or big, anything. And that drama right there with her instantly made him relapse, and he wasn't being honest with me about it. And I said, if you're using, if you're drinking, whatever, I said, just tell me. I said, I'm not going to say anything, even though I did say something to my mom, because I was worried. But I had conversations with him. He was like, I'm 30 years old, or I'm about to be 30 years old, and I don't want to be single. I'm not married. Like, I don't want to start over with somebody else. And I'm like, you're 30. I was like, you have a lot more stuff to worry about right now than a relationship.
Yeah.
I said, you should be focused on your recovery,
Take care of you.
Yeah. And I had multiple conversations with him, and it's still in my mind now, like when he passed, we don't know if he did it because he was just wanting to use or if he did it on purpose.
Gotcha.
So there's a little bit of a line between there, but I blame myself a lot because I was busy at the time, and he kept wanting me to come stay with him and talk to him and comfort him, and I couldn't be there. And then that ended up happening, so I blame myself, and I'm like, I should have been there more. I should have understood more. Maybe if I would have stayed that night, he would still be here. So I blame myself a lot for his passing.
That's understandable, but I think with some more time and certainly some more age, you'll come to understand the choice was his.
Yeah.
He could have OD'd in the bathroom with you in the bedroom next door, anything of that nature. And you've mentioned more than once about speaking to your mom of things he told you not to tell her.
Yeah.
You stood a far greater chance of helping him by telling her than hurting him by having told them. And it'll take some time. Plus, I like the way you just got done mentioning we don't know if it was taking the drug for the sake of the drug or tend at all, okay? You're saying that tells me you've still got some things going on in your head.
Yep.
And you wanted to get an answer. So if I can blame it on me, even if it's wrong, at least it gives an answer. And that's something to get angry at. And we don't always want to get angry at our loved ones.
Yeah, I would say the only reason why I kind of contemplate between him just using and it just happened like accidentally, or him doing on purpose, because all throughout my brother's addiction, he never used needles, no nothing. And my brother, this one last time, he had used a needle.
This was, to the best of your knowledge, his first and last time to use the needle.
Yes.
Okay. So that plants a question. Why? Yes.
Because I think he knew it'd be strong enough. Just because my brother, he never did that before, and I don't know if it's because he had been sober for so long and he was trying to get that high that he couldn't get, or if he did it on purpose.
Yeah. Kara, I am not asking you to give an absolute here, but do you feel like your parents and your other brother have many of the same feelings you do? Are you guys pretty much on the same page, or is there a lot of difference in how your dad views it versus how your mom, your brother, you?
So there's a big difference on how we view my brother's passing and everything, just because I am the one that found my brother at the time, and I was there by myself while my parents were at work, and it seemed like it took them forever to get there, and
Of course.
I had to handle everything like I was the adult that day. So I saw a lot more than what my parents did. So their perspective on things is very different from what I saw, just because my parents, they didn't see it.
Yes.
I did.
Yes. I'm going to ask you a question here. Feel free to just shake your head no if you want to. I hope this comes across okay. You've got the voice of a 13-year-old, okay? I want to ask you, what is your age?
I am 19. Or actually, I'm 20 now, sorry.
So there's 10 years difference in you and your brother.
Yep.
And so at that time, you were basically 18, 19.
Yeah, I was 19.
Okay, 19. And you're dealing with all of that has just taken place.
Yep.
Because everybody else is at work. I respect that. I mean nothing negative by that. So obviously you're going to have some different emotions.
Yeah.
And you're going to have things to deal with that someday they're going to get triggered somehow.
Oh, yeah, they definitely get triggered.
Yeah. And I hope you're prepared to take that emotionally. Or did you earlier come to a point to where you realize this is my brother's problem? I care. I love him. I want better. I'm trying. Others are trying. Did you come to a point to where you said to yourself, but the choice was his to ever start, to truly, try to dump it off your shoulders?
So about when he started relapsing, that 2-week mark right before he passed, I had called my mom and I said, you know what? I said, I've been trying to help him over the years. I don't understand why, he keeps hurting us. And I said, I love him, but I can't talk to him anymore. I said, I can't keep dealing with this. I said, it should not be my responsibility to stop him or to take him to rehab every time or to keep him out of trouble. I said, I'm 19 years old, that should not be my responsibility to do that. I was just very angry at the time. But of course, that only lasted a couple of days, and then I talked to him, I helped him through all the issues that he was having before he passed.
Do you realize now or feel, regardless of how you responded then, indeed it was his problem?
I do understand that is his problem, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. I think that's important for your mental health,
Yeah.
physical health. You're dealing with life as it moves on. This will be a tough one, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
So you can sit across the table from him for the next few moments. What would you want to say?
That's a difficult one. I don't really know what I would say if I was sitting across from him right now. But, one thing I can say is that, when I'm on my way to work or I'm going somewhere, I do talk to him sometimes, and I try to say, I understand. It hurts, but I understand why you did it. I don't know.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
He had to know how much you cared. You
Yeah.
were always there, except for
Yeah.
2 days here, 2 days there.
Yeah.
Your batting average of helping him out was tremendously high,
Yeah.
and you were committed to him. And in my mind, each time he went through one of those moments, and you as well, finding him on the floor,
Yeah.
being willing to accept him back was your way of saying, I forgive you.
Yeah.
You're entitled to any anger you want to have, and that's a natural part of the grieving process.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before on the air. At 23, my mom took her life. It took me 8 years to realize one morning her passing so much is the way she died.
Yeah.
And so it's that I get some of the internal struggle that's there, okay? It's an uneasy thing when you've got those questions and all the woulda, coulda, shouldas
Yep.
and everything that goes with that. Give some advice to other folks out there dealing with similar to you, a loved one who's into their addiction. Let's just say for the moment they're clean and they have been a year or 2 or 3. What would you say?
It's difficult to answer that just because it's hard for me to give advice to, I think, other people when I couldn't give advice to my brother at the time.
I'm chuckling myself for this reason. Had a gentleman sitting right there. He's actually on our introduction to this podcast. He said, how can I help others when I couldn't help my own son
Yeah.
who had overdosed? So how can you give me advice when you couldn't give advice to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
Because I think it just made me like my opinion, but I think I can't like give advice to an addict because I'm not an addict myself. Even though I've experienced having a sibling with an addiction, I haven't experienced it myself. So
The
it's kind of hard.
advice you can give is, I know what it's doing to your family.
Yeah,
Because you've been there.
you're right.
I don't come from an addiction background, but by the same token, I realize family hurt, family losses, family struggles, family splitting up over situations, everything that it creates. I'm willing to offer my 2 cents, and it's up to you whether or not you take it, right? Yeah. So you talked about how the advice that you gave didn't make a difference. Yes and no. That may have been what kept him around another 5 years.
Yeah.
You may have added 8 years to his life with your help, your support, your love, and acceptance.
Yeah, because I was the only one that I would say I would tell him straight up about what he was doing. Even if he didn't like it, I would tell him. I just wish he would have just understood why I was so hard on him and why I was so blunt towards him, but he would just kind of shut me out sometimes.
Of course,
And I
he
feel
would.
like it wasn't fair.
And it wasn't, but that's because you were right.
Yeah.
If you were wrong, he'd have probably argued it with you.
Yeah.
he couldn't argue what you were saying.
Yeah.
And obviously he still respected you because it sounds to me like you guys were close
Yeah,
to
we
the
were.
end. And so he could have turned his back in several different ways, but he hung in there with you.
Yep.
What is it that's gotten you through this over the past year, give or take?
I don't know, because it's been very, very difficult for me trying to get through this, because I definitely feel alone. I feel like my mom or brother or my dad couldn't even understand what I've been through, even though they did lose a son. My other brother, he did lose a brother, but I feel like because they didn't physically see it or went through the same thing that I did, that they don't understand. So I don't know what's gotten me through it, to be honest. I think just keeping myself busy.
Well, in a moment like this, I believe this is a help.
Yeah.
You're there helping others. And I'm going to give you one piece of advice. You're talking about how they weren't there, so they don't know what you were feeling. I'm sure that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But by the same token, a few moments ago you said because I haven't done drugs, I can't give advice.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. You've just done it. You've done it for the last 40 plus minutes here. And thank you for that. I know in the beginning, as we said earlier, you wanted no part of this, but I can remember you said something like, it will come. You will be ready.
Yeah.
And you stepped up to the plate here today as a 20-year-old who lost a brother 10 years older than you.
Yep.
And you've handled it in a very mature and adult way. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we just hope this brings meaning, hope, clarity to those of you out there who are fighting the battle with addiction, what it's doing to and toward your family. We invite you to seek help. It's out there in all ways, shape, or forms. Contact us at A Better Life, Brianna's Hope. We'll help you find help if you're not around here, Central Indiana. So for now, we're going to sign off. We're going to invite you to stay in the battle. Keep it going. Give it another chance. Your answer may be just around the corner or in our next episode of Faith in Your Recovery. God bless and thank you.